you have this idea in your head and you can't get it out on paper or into Photoshop or Illustrator. And this is the first time I've ever been able to actually do that. Like have something in my head and then make it happen and have an original image.
Welcome to the Agents of Change, the podcast experience you've been waiting for your entire marketing career. Search, social, mobile, AI, blockchain, and neuromarketing. These are the Agents of Change, and so are you. Digital marketing success awaits, and your transformation begins now.
Welcome to another episode of the Agents of Change podcast, the podcast that's here to help you reach and engage more of your ideal customers online and build your business. My name is Rich Brooks. This is episode 562, powered by Flight New Media. Hey, it's that time of year and things are going around, and I'm definitely not 100% or myself, so I'm going to make this easy on both of us and jump right into this week's episode, all about generating eye-catching, scroll-stopping graphics with AI. Now, where did I put my chicken noodle soup?
My next guest is a hirsute content creator, live streamer, and host of Social Media News Live. He specializes in content repurposing, helping creators maximize the value of their content by distributing it across various platforms. He's known for his engaging and humorous style, often mixing practical advice with wit, and has built a community of solopreneurs, marketers, and content creators. He's also passionate about using AI to repurpose content and craft images, and he teaches others how to leverage AI in these areas. Additionally, he's involved in video production, podcasting, and speaking at events. His work is all about making content creation smarter and more efficient while keeping it fun. And today we're going to be talking about how AI is going to impact the images and even the video you create with Jeff Sieh. Jeff, how's it going?
Man, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to talk about this. It's been a while. We shared the stage, I guess it was Lima a couple years ago, but we've always run in the same circles. We're old. We've been in this for a while.
Yes, we are OG creators for sure. So it's really funny. So we just actually got off a call that we were both on. They asked you to be there. I just showed up, but it was for Mike Stelzner's AI paid membership group. And you were basically the star attraction for how to create images using AI. And I'm just kind of curious, there were a lot of questions about consistency, about which image creators to use, about free software. As you're out there, are those the kind of questions you're hearing the most, or are there any questions that you kind of are used to hearing that maybe you didn't hear in today's session?
I guess, they're always about how to prompt and get the best looking images out of there. And then there's always the questions like, hey, is this ethical, and all those kind of things too. And, you have to look and see what the models are training on. And we talked about it a little bit as well, but it's you can't create Spider-Man to hawk your real estate business and expect Disney not to come after you. You can't do that kind of stuff. So you got to do some common sense. But the cool thing for me that I get passionate about is that now, and you've probably done the same thing, is like you've struggled with for years, like you have this idea in your head and you can't get it out on paper or into Photoshop or Illustrator. And this is the first time I've ever been able to actually do that. Like have something in my head and then make it happen and have an original image. It was a couple years ago, I spoke at Lou Mangello's event. He's an OG podcaster and he does a thing in Florida. And it was the first time I was ever able to do a presentation using all original slides. Always before, we're always trying to find stock photo and shove it in to make a point, and it kind of works. And you're like, I wish this was all original. And it was phenomenal. It was amazing. And it was so exciting as a creator and as a speaker to have it be totally originally and be exactly what I wanted to communicate to the audience.
That's awesome. And so for me, from my standpoint, is I've been using a lot of these tools for a while. I love using them, but if I'm being honest, I love using them for the creation standpoint. Like I love seeing what the AI is going to come up with. I love playing around with it. It's a real creative outlet. I've been less than impressed sometimes with either the final product or how long it takes me to get to the final product. So I'm hoping through today's conversation, we can turn this at least for me, and perhaps the people listening, because I care about them too, about how to turn this from something that's just fun into something that's really a good tool that content creators, marketers, and business owners should be using. So starting at the beginning, like I'm obviously you've always been involved with visuals. You were like the manly Pinterest guy. I'm
Mhm.
curious about what drew you into using AI for image creation. Was there a tipping point or an aha moment where you're like, oh my God, this is the way to move forward?
So I've always liked retro images, like the Hardy Boys, that kind of style, that kind of stuff. The cool Rockwell kind of images, and it would be too expensive to have a graphic designer do that. And so I was playing around with some of this, and it was 2 years ago when I did that conference. Midjourney was based in Discord. Then you had to do all these weird things inside of Discord, but I was able to create an image that I wanted, and it looked like it could come from the artist. And I was like, okay, this is real. I'm finally able to take what's out of in my head and get it out there. I mean, I've been able to do Photoshop and stuff like that. And just being in the business, you've learned how to manipulate things to try to get stuff to work. But this was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I can actually get what I want. The thing you mentioned before, the struggle with trying to get, it's great for ideation but you're never really happy with the final result. You're never, for me, as of now, I can't create a prompt ever have the first thing I generate be the one that I pick. Like it's always like moving down. The thing is that I'm able to, when I create something, hone in on that. And that's why, my favorite program to use right now is Midjourney, because it gives me 4 images and I can vary those images the way a wide variety of images, but then I can drill into it and go, okay, I want this to be that. I want this, move this over to this side. I want this guy to have dark hair, make him angry or whatever. And I can do that inside of Midjourney and get that final image that so many people struggle with. And it does take some work, but it's a lot faster than me trying to make it Photoshop or put up on Fiverr and have somebody try to recreate it or that kind of thing. So the key is to find the tool that works for you and giving you the images that you want. I go with Midjourney because of the variety and the control that I have. Dolly is one that a lot of people use and they kind of get disappointed in. It reminds me a lot of Canva when that first came out. Like you would go and you're like, oh, there's a Canva image. Oh, that was made with a Canva template. And now I kind of feel that same with Dolly. I can usually see somebody who's made an AI generated image and go, oh, yeah, they use ChatGPT and that's from Dolly. You can just kind of tell. Midjourney, I can do whatever I want, photorealistic, art, abstract, and it's just kind of the jack of all trades for me right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you that you got to find the right tool. And if you have the budget to be able to use multiple tools is definitely key. I, like you, love Midjourney, prefer. That's my go-to tool. But there was a time when I was creating rebuses, business-themed rebuses, word puzzles, and I was able to create them best in Dolly. So sometimes Dolly seemed to be really good at creating crisp black and white clip art based on my descriptions, and usually within 1 or 2 iterations. So, if you do have the budget, or if you're willing to try some free trials and keep on coming up with a new Gmail address every week, that's
Right.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But
So a perfect example is like Midjourney doesn't really do a great job with text. It's getting better, but it's still not the best one. So when I need to make text, I'll go to Ideogram. That's the one I found that does the best job with creating text-based graphics, and they have some really good quality art and photorealistic images. So those are the two I play with, because if you're doing social media stuff or you're doing marketing, you're going to need both. You're going to need stock kind of photo-ish kind of things, and you also need those text-based graphics. And so I have paid to both of those because I use them, interchangeably. Sometimes I'll create a background in Midjourney, and then I'll use Ideogram to create text, and then I'll remove the background and put them on top of each other. And so I think that's also what helps you stand out in the feed when you're not doing the same thing everybody else is. If you can combine tools and come up with something kind of new, then I just think your images are elevated.
I would agree. I think it's almost like a year ago when you would do a simple prompt to create an entire blog post and you're like, oh my God, it's brilliant. And now if you saw a similar blog, you'd be like, oh, that is one lazy prompt. And you wouldn't think anything about it. It's using these tools as an artist might, where it's like once you start to use them and then combining them in new and fresh ways, I think is where you're going. But at the same time, some people are just looking for the fast, easy way out.
Right.
And one of the things I've done in the past is, especially for slide decks, is I will create a background image in Midjourney, and then I put text on layered on top of it in another program, either Keynote or maybe I'll pull it to Photoshop and layer it on that way. So that's another option too about using multiple tools.
Mhm.
You referenced some of the AI or some of the ethical concerns people have, and when it comes to AI generated art, especially regarding originality and copyright, what do you say to people when they ask you about their concerns when it comes to this?
I say like if they're really concerned about copyright, I would go with like Adobe's Firefly because they've trained on stuff that they've purchased or they own, and it's probably the safest and best bet out there if you're concerned about that. My thing is these artists have put stuff out there and they're usually being trained on stuff they've already put out on the web. But even artists learn by copying. And I'm not saying that that's right. We're just it's copying at superhuman speeds. Like even Leonardo da Vinci, when he was learning, he would go to the masters and copy their style and chisel out and try to copy exactly what they did. AI for me is kind of like that, that it just does it a lot faster. Now, if you are taking somebody's art and passing it off as your own, then I have a little bit of problem with that. Like if you're selling it, like you're like there's some really great comic book artists and people are using them as models. You can't really, I have a problem with you take that and print it on a t-shirt because you changed it up a little bit. That's not cool to me. What I like to do is take different styles, mix them together to something new and make my own. Because that's what I think artists do anyway. There's really nothing new under the sun. It's just it's so easy now and it's so fast. And I mean, even we're not talking about music, but even music is a whole nother thing. The stuff that you can create now with AI generated music, where is that line? I mean, we still have to have conversations about it. But for me, for what I'm doing it in a way that I feel like I'm not really stealing from them. I don't have a problem with it.
All right. Now, if for the marketers who are just getting started with this, and we heard some of these questions come up on the segment we're just on, is there a first tool or a first step that you would recommend as where they should get started? Because with so many tools that are out there and seemingly more AI tools coming on the market every day, each with its own little twist on the original formula, where do you suggest people start?
So I've been pointing people to Magi. I think you've used it as well too, but
Yeah.
because it gives you access to everything, you can play with things and find out for one monthly fee instead of having try and Midjourney for a month and then canceling and then go to an ideogram and canceling. It lets you use most all of the big image tools. Now, Midjourney is not part of that because of their API, but Dustin, the founder and creator of Magi, he's always adding new ones. And so it's really cool to go in and be able to play and see how those different models do different things with your prompts. So that's where I've been pointing to people. If they're getting started and they want to kind of experiment with AI image generation, I would go to Magi and go in there and start playing and finding out which one you like the best.
I would agree. I definitely think that if you're just starting, like it's kind of the smorgasbord of AI tools because you're able to do so many else. And also you can tap into a bunch of text and even video editors all within that same license.
Right.
So that's definitely an interesting place to start. So there was conversation about how much time or money this will save using AI generated tools. And I'm going to be honest with you, like this is just my own experience, but I love using Midjourney and other AI generative tools to create images, but I often find that I am spending more time trying to create the right image when at the end of the day, I end up going over to Adobe Stock, finding something that is damn close to what I had in my head in the first place and just using that. And, it's a monthly fee, but it's virtually free because I get 700 images.
Mhm.
How can I break that habit? How can I create consistently high quality images in a time effective manner?
So we talked about Flux is a free one, and there's some other ones. The problem with those is they usually generate one image. The one thing I love about Midjourney is you get 4, right? One prompt gives you 4, it gets me there faster. And I can also turn on what they have fast hours, which you can actually render more than 4 at once if you want to. It's going to burn through them. But a lot of times I'll do 6 or 8 when I'm trying to like come up with something, especially if I'm in a deadline for like a presentation that I'm doing and I need some slides. I'll use those to go in. And then my thing is, even the stock photo libraries, I could go to a presentation and somebody else could be using that same image. They could. I've seen it happen with presenters. There used to be a stock photo of a guy holding a banana, and it seemed like every person used that for their presentation. These are all mine. They're all original. Nobody has them like what I have put together. That is really cool to me. And even we do it for our blogs, we do it for Instagrams, we do it for all the pieces that go out. They're mine. There's no stock photos anymore. And for me, that's really important and really, really cool.
Prompt engineering is something that some people swear it's the future of AI. Other people say it doesn't really matter even anymore, that the AI is smart enough. How important do you feel prompt crafting in generating the right types of images? And what tips do you have for creating more effective prompts?
So it's going to be based on platform but a lot of times you can actually go inside of ChatGPT and have it craft a prompt for Midjourney. There's a plugin called Gilbletry, I think is in ChatGPT that you can use that will actually give you 4 different images and 4 different styles and also give you Midjourney prompts that you can copy and paste over, which I find really helpful to kind of when I'm trying to explore styles. I think that especially for Midjourney, every word matters. Sometimes you want to get super specific and you want exactly what you kind of thought in your head, or you've used ChatGPT to kind of like give you the f-stops and all the things, the camera and all that kind of stuff, the lighting. But sometimes you want to have a kind of a more general, because you're kind of exploring. You're not really sure how to I go back to this all the time is we had a lady on who is a professional voiceover artist, and it was about the power of sound. Well, how do I portray sound other than just a waveform that everybody uses, right? So I had ChatGPT go in and kind of craft me a prompt, and I was able to go in and use that and get an abstract image that I could use for a thumbnail background and paste that into Midjourney. So you kind of want to have, there's a balance. Like if you want super specific, you got to use super specific words and maybe a longer prompt that you're putting into Midjourney. If you want something more general, you need to kind of lighten up a little bit and let Midjourney play. And then you can go down some rabbit holes and find the perfect image.
Yeah, I found that sometimes I like going in there and literally just seeing what happens with a one-word prompt,
Right.
like darkness or entropy, and it just starts a really interesting creative journey. It's not always something that ends up in Flight New Media or Agents of Change social media feed necessarily,
Right.
but it's a
Right.
lot of fun to kind of play and experiment with these tools.
You can use
Um,
emojis as well. It'll actually go off of emojis and you can see what that generates.
Oh, well, that is going to be what I do right after this interview is over. So I'm definitely going to have to check it out. What are some of your go-to commands in Midjourney or some of these other tools like aspect ratio, 16:9, or dash raw? What are some of the ones that kind of give you the most control or the most interesting outputs?
So I go between raw and the other, toggling it on and off a lot. I really like going in and going dash dash random when I'm bored, because I can unlock those sref codes, which are kind of the cheat codes that you can plug in later for Midjourney, which is kind of fun to do. And a lot of times I'll make like a mood board to see how Midjourney will actually treat faces, colors, all that different things with using those sref codes. So freeflow.ai is a great resource to go in and find those codes and some prompts that people have unlocked and uploaded. There's whole YouTube and Twitter accounts where people are just sharing these sref codes, and there's some really cool ones out there. So that's probably my biggest hack. I use that dash dash R in Midjourney and then put like a number to have more than just those 4 come up if I'm really cranking stuff out for a presentation. The thing that's been amazing is the new web editor in Midjourney compared to the Discord thing. It was just a nightmare. And now dragging images that I have that I've created before, or that I actually are of me, that I can just drag into the editor and say, base it off of this, is really cool for coming up with really images that fit your brand and your style. So those are kind of the big ones that I use. The web-based editor and being able to upload and combine images to come up with a new style is really pretty powerful in Midjourney.
So there was a lot to unpack there in terms of, it got a little geeky, which is awesome, but no, it's great. So let's talk. Define srefs for me.
So that is, sref stands for style reference. It used to be in Discord, you'd go dash dash sref, and then that's where you'd upload your image URL. Now you don't have to do that. You can just upload an image and click on an icon and it will be that style reference. Style reference codes are these like almost like hex codes, or in Canva, there's actually a style like code that you can put in to have your styles kind of look the same, kind of a cheat code. That's what these srefs are. And there's like a billion of them and nobody's unlocked them, but you unlock them by going dash dash random, and it's just going to give you a random thing to your prompt. And people are posting those and cataloging them and all sorts of cool things. But that's what SREF stands for, a style reference.
So if I were to upload, or if my prompt was something like, a bouquet of flowers, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was to do one of these sref or the random,
Yeah.
like what kind of things happen once I put in, random or any of these
It's
things?
totally random. What it's going to do is take that prompt and it's going to, whatever that code is that it's going to give you randomly, is going to apply that to your image. If you already have that code, or you have done some random ones and you like some of them, you can actually use that code on all your image, whenever you want to apply that style to whatever prompt you want. So it's a great way, if you find them on the web or you find a certain style like that you like, that you can just copy that and paste it and it'll apply that style to any prompt that you put up there. I'm hoping, and it's been rumored, that eventually you'll be able to upload your own image and it will unlock a code that you can use, which would be very, very handy. But so far, it's all based on random, and you just have to find them on the internet or do them yourself.
All right. So here's an issue that I've run into quite a few times. And this comes down to I'm often frustrated by the lack of control that I have over these AI images. So, for example, what I would love is we've got these 6 great Agents of Change characters illustrated by Joshua Fisher,
Mhm.
created them for us. And occasionally I'd like to kind of like have a different perspective on them, or have them doing something else, or putting them into a situation that they weren't drawn for. Josh is very busy. He can't always get to me. So, is there a tool that I could take these illustrations, or perhaps it's a photo or whatever it is, and put them into different circumstances and get an image that looks like the original image, in terms of like people would recognize, oh, that's the AI agent, or that's the SEO agent, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, so you could actually upload that image and then use that image as a style reference for anything else. Or you could even experiment with a character reference. That's how if you see a lot of those mid-journey images where it looks like the same person is in different scenes, they're using character reference on that. I did a thing, and this is what got me the gig for speaking at Social Media Marketing World next year, is I downloaded Stelzner's banner image. He has that kind of that signature look of that kind of an illustration. I was able
Yeah.
to download that, upload it to Midjourney, and say, I want Godzilla coming down from a mountain. And it did that in that style. And so he was like, oh, okay. And then I was able to go in with there's what's called in painting, where you, almost like in Photoshop, with a Photoshop brush it out and change it and said, I don't want Godzilla, I want King Kong. And it kept everything the same, and it brought King Kong in. So you're able to do that now with your own images or even styles that you like. So for your Agents of Change kind of graphic, I would upload that as a style reference. Upload that to Midjourney, use it as a style reference, and create something new based off of that.
How as specific as you can be. I upload the image into Midjourney, and now there's midjourney.com. We don't have to bother the Discord anymore.
Right.
And then is there a button there where it says style or
So you have 3, when you upload an image, you'll have it, you do the image drop down and you'll see that image there. And there's 3 different things you can click on. There's it looks like a profile photo. It looks like a paper clip. And another one looks like kind of like a scene or a photo. The middle one with the paper clip is the style reference. The other one's an image reference. The other one is a character reference. But you want that style reference to go and create that based on the image that you've uploaded.
All right. So I know that many AI tools struggle with letters and words. And then, like we were talking about, I've often brought it into Photoshop and added text there. What are your favorite tools? You mentioned Ideogram. Is that the only tool, or are there other tools that we should be experimenting with to kind of create words that are actually spelled correctly?
So Ideogram is the best one that I have found. There's some other ones, and once again, it's an arms race. They're going to get better. This is the worst everything's going to be right now. But a hack that you can do that I've used a lot of times, especially for slides, is I'll actually, inside of Ideogram, say, hey, I want you to write this phrase like Agents of Change, right? I want to have a really cool Agents of Change kind of lettering. I'll say, do it on a green screen or do it on a solid color. Then you can upload that to Canva and remove background, and then you can put that wherever you want, and it's transparent and you don't have any of the issues. Or you can do it in Photoshop, but it's a great way to move something around and kind of split it up so you don't just have a background that you can't take out later.
So is Ideogram creating new fonts for us?
I think so. I actually took it in. There's a program with Adobe where it will recognize fonts, and it didn't recognize them. So I'm thinking it's kind of creating it generatively and combining different styles and stuff. So it's a lot of fun to play with if you're trying to do some quote graphics or something like that.
All right. Now, branding is really important to me, to my company. We actually, Flight New Media offers branding as a service. It seems to me that a lot of these platforms out there are not fantastic when it comes to staying on brand. One of the exceptions would be Canva, which comes with its own brand kit, or you can create your own brand kit and upload it. But then again, I don't find the generative AI imagery all that fantastic on Canva, so it's a little bit of a trade-off. How do you recommend we find a balance between staying on brand and using some of the better tools that are out there right now?
So this is what I've done for Midjourney. I use Canva to go create a swatch palette, right, with the logo and then the main colors of the logo or whatever. You take that image and you make that a style reference or a character reference inside of Midjourney, and then whatever you create is going to use your brand colors, and it works really, really well. We did it. I did an example for Stelzner where it was his logo, and we created a bunch of robots, and they were all in his colors and kind of look and feel. So that's what I would do for branding. The other cool thing you can do, especially if you have really like Red Bull or a racing kind of really strong brand kind of presence, is you can actually upload an image. Let's say I had a friend who he did like the dirt kart racing things, and so he was a PR guy. So we took one of his images. You upload it to Midjourney. You can also upload it to ChatGPT, and you can say, describe this image, and it will describe that image. And then you can take those descriptions for both Midjourney and also ChatGPT, combine them together and say, hey, combine this, make a really precise prompt. And then you can upload that and create all these different assets from that image that matches. So we were able to create all these race cars in his logos, in his colors, all that stuff with the same motion blur and everything in Midjourney by doing that way, having it describe it and then taking that, creating a prompt, and then putting it back to Midjourney and having it render out all these cool race cars.
So in ChatGPT, I can create custom GPTs. I can basically train it in my own voice or my company voice, and then I can actually specifically ask questions of the virtual Rich Brooks or whatever the case may be. What you're describing sounds similar, but is there a way in Midjourney where I can always say, like, use the Flight brand, use the Agents of Change brand, or whatever it would be? Or is it each time I've got a prompt library offline, and I'm bringing that prompt in each time that I want to create it?
So they do have now a really cool folder system inside of Midjourney, which is really helpful. And you can search inside of it. Like if you like we have thousands and thousands of images. And so if I want to go find a pink Cadillac that I created for a client, I can go and type that and it'll pull it up, and I can get the prompt and everything's still there that I use for that, which is really, really helpful. The images that you upload stay kind of in the image dropdown. I don't know how long they last or how many you can have in there. There's quite a few that I have. But what you could do if you've got a style that you're using for a brand, that would stay there, and you could always use that as a reference, and you wouldn't have to go find it every time. They're not any great tools like Magi has, where it's got a whole built-in prompt library, something like that, but they are getting better with organizations.
All right. Maybe to listen to this podcast, they hear you speaking, and we'll have this tool in a couple of weeks or so.
Right, exactly.
So now this might be me. I always feel like I get tired of things sooner than the average person does, but I feel like most of the AI generated images I'm seeing in my social feeds, at first it was interesting, but now they're not that good. And the novelty, which used to keep me hooked, has kind of worn off. Maybe that's not true with everybody. What is your recommendation for social media managers, people who are responsible for creating images in AI for their social, to make these images really stand out and pop in a sea of AI generated images?
I think it's going to come down to blending things together, like coming up with your own style. Don't just hit the easy button and create a prompt and just say, hey, that's great, I'll post that in Instagram. Actually go in and like what I have done is like I've really drilled into the look and feel of what I want. It's that kind of 50s retro. We took a lot of time going into the way we want it to look and the fonts and the colors and all that stuff. So dive into that so you stand out and you can create amazing images. There's a lot of great, amazing AI images, but you're right. It's kind of the sea of great images. And then like, where do you fit in? So because we are kind of have that nostalgic kind of feel to it, I think that's what makes us stand out in the feed compared to others. And so you need to find out what that is for you. And learn artists. For an example, I was trying to do like this Jetsons kind of feel. Now I'm really dating myself. Jetsons was a cartoon way back in the day, but they have a certain kind of architecture. I didn't know what that was. Turns out it's called Googie, like not Google, but Googie. And it's the kind of this retro style. Once I was able to learn that, then I could go in and tell these AI models to create images based on that. So you need to learn artists. You need to learn like styles and keep like a little notepad and then start blending those together to come up with your own look and feel that will help you stand out compared to everybody else.
Side note, we are closer to when the Jetsons is supposed to take place than when it actually aired. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have that consistent look and feel. And as you're talking, one idea that I was just thinking of is I could take Flight or Agents of Change brand guide that we've created, which has our fonts and our colors and examples of the photography we choose and all this sort of stuff, and upload it to a tool like ChatGPT and ask it perhaps for some feedback and some descriptions that then maybe would go into a prompt that we'd start to get some consistent look and feel for some of these images too. So if you are lucky enough to have one of those brand guides, that might be something worth trying out at home too.
And also your logos and all of that, the images that you've already created, you can have multiple style references on Midjourney. So I would put like 3 or 4 of those and then do a prompt and see what it pulls in from your existing catalog. And it may really surprise you.
Yeah. So I mentioned that we use Adobe Stock here at Flight, and I'm very used to going in there and finding the right images and things like that. And some of them are great, some of them are terrible. Do you see AI generated images as being a replacement for traditional stock photos, or do they serve a different role in your opinion?
I think the big stock photo libraries are probably on their way out. I don't know the last time I used one. Like I just don't anymore because I want to have those original images and have them exactly the way I want, even for my blog post. So I think there's always going to be photographers. There's always going to be great photographers. There's always going to be for art photography. There's always going to be a need for that. But I just don't think there'll be like, there may be one. Adobe will probably stick around just because they're Adobe. But I think some of the other ones will just slowly go away. I think the same thing for stock music libraries. I think, now I can generate any of the sound effects that I need with AI. So I'm like, will I use those libraries anymore? Why not create my own music for my YouTube videos that's original and I don't have to get hit by a copyright thing or a license thing because the license thing didn't go through. Anyway, I think there's going to be a lot less of them. You still might use them. Like if you're going to have a picture of like the Constitution of the United States, you're probably going to have to find that from a stock photo library because as of now, it'll get close maybe, but it won't be the original Constitution that everybody knows. So, and like same thing, like if you have a picture of Disney that you need for a blog post, it will create a Disney-like thing, but it's not going to create that Epcot and the things that people associate with the actual place.
Right. And, again, that goes into the whole copyright issue anyways,
Right.
because, and nobody's going to sue you faster than Disney.
That's
So,
right. They'll get you. We can't even say Mickey Mouse. Oops.
exactly. We'll bleep that up. Are there any AI tools that can take a flat image and turn it into a 3D rendering? Again, thinking about my own characters for the Agents of Change and just kind of filling them out as you might.
So I would experiment with Midjourney because they have some really cool making things kind of look Pixar-ish and 3D. That's a great one. Ideogram has rolled out in the last month, actually, where you can actually go and tell it what kind of image you want. Like, and there is a 3D button that you can play with. I have not played with it too much, but that's where one of the first places I would go if you're wanting to make like from your 2D art to 3D.
All right. And then the next logical step would be to animate them. I've got one of my characters called Mobile, and she's got a jetpack and she flies around. I'd love to see her actually zipping around. What tool might I get started with or play around with to get her flying?
I think you could probably do it today with Kling. And if not Kling, then I would use Runway ML for those.
Talk to me a little bit about character references. Like, what exactly are they and how are they used to create more consistency in some of our image creations?
Yeah, so that was a big thing for AI generative tools. It was hard to keep a character going through scenes. Like if you're trying to storyboard something or make your own comic book or something like that, character reference actually does a pretty decent job and it keeps getting better in Midjourney. So you can say, this and you upload an image and say, this is a character reference. Now create that same, let's say it's a dark-haired lady, and you say, I want that same dark-haired lady on a park bench. I want that same dark-haired lady walking a dog. And you can do that now with character reference to the Midjourney. And you can actually have different weights. So you can tell it how much of that character you want to pull. And so you can actually adjust that inside of Midjourney.
All right. Can't wait to play around with that. Are there any AI tools or updates on the horizon that you are specifically excited about?
I think the more we're going to be able to do with video generated from like our still images, it keeps getting longer, and you keep kind of extending some things. That's where I think I'm really excited. Being able to upload your own images and then adjust the canvas and actually go and in-paint your own images now. That came out last week in Midjourney and Ideogram as well. So those things are cool. The thing that'll excite me is when some of the reins are loosened a little bit. They got it pretty tight right now, what you can generate just to be safe. So, especially with the election today, they I think held back on some of that. But being able to go in and adjust an image, so I do like Amazon videos. And let's say my wife was modeling a new blouse, and I'm like, okay, I want same blouse. I want to change the color. You can do that now. I mean, that stuff's really, really cool, being able to go in and do that kind of thing. So that, and then if I could actually go in, upload my own image and create a style reference code, like we talked about earlier, have it be my own for my brand that I could apply every time, that would be kind of just amazing to be able to constantly create images just by using those style reference codes.
That would be great. The other thing that I wish that we had is I would like to take myself and be able to put it into one of these tools and get me in different situations. And I know you say that we can do this now. I have yet to be able to do it. Now, you it would work better with, because you have real character with a long beard, and there's things about it. And I think back to when we spoke at Social Media Week Lima, and we all got bobbleheads, and yours was like amazing, and I got mine, and I'm like, who is this guy? It's just like the most generic white guy I've ever seen in my entire life.
So you're going to be on my show later on, I think this month. And so I will create a thumbnail and I'll use you and I'll show you how to do it, because you get it.
Cannot wait.
So you get it as close as you can, and then use a face swap program that swaps your face to that image. And so that's the best way to do it right now.
Okay, awesome. Jeff, always amazing talking to you, and you get my creative juices flowing. Where can people find you online?
Best place is at jeffsieh.com. That's I before E, especially in C. So that's Jeff, S as in Sam, IEH. That's how my mom told me to do it. If you want to find out the best tools that I have, jeffsieh.com/toolbox. That has all the AI stuff we talked about today. And I'm constantly trying to update it. And so you guys can go play there. That's all the tools that I use in my business.
Fantastic. We'll have all of those links in the show notes. I'm going to get there before you do. Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always great to get in contact with you again.
Well, thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
I really feel like I'm giving Jeff the short shrift because of my voice. Jeff is the man, and his advice is golden. I definitely recommend checking out the links he shared with us, which you can find at our website at theagentsofchange.com/562. Plus, you'll find all the key takeaways, a full transcript, a blog post based on this week's episode. It's all there. It's all free. Okay, that's it for now. I'll see you next week when I'm feeling like an agent of change.
Don't miss another thrilling episode of the Agents of Change podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform.